Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. And I am very excited to welcome Amanda Crawford, CFRE, to the People in Fundraising weekly nonprofit podcast series. Amanda is our first guest from the state of Mississippi. Amanda is also helping me to finally reach the goal of 4 years to have at least one guest from every U.S. state. So, Amanda, thank you so much for representing Mississippi, for making it work with your schedule. I know we just talked about this last week, got it all set up. So I really appreciate your flexibility, and I'm excited to learn from you today on this podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. It's a privilege to represent the state of Mississippi and be the grand finale to your 50 states. So I'm really looking forward to being part of the conversation today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we get into the questions, Amanda, if you could please introduce yourself to our audience by your title, your employer, and then we'll get into the questions.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. My name is Amanda Crawford, and I'm a lifelong Mississippian. I currently serve as the executive director for the Mississippi Nurses Foundation here in Mississippi, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later during our conversation today.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Amanda, I think we entered the nonprofit field roughly around the same time, just looking at your LinkedIn bio. If you could tell our audience, please, how you entered the nonprofit social impact world and how you've gone from the beginning stages to where you are today, please.
Sure. Well, it's been an incredible journey. Oddly enough, when I first went to college, I had plans on being a physical therapist.
Oh.
That's another story for another day. But went to Mississippi State University and earned a degree in secondary education and decided that I did not want to be an educator either.
Okay. Yeah.
So growing up and being in a small town in Mississippi, there weren't a lot of professional career opportunities where I live. But I was fortunate enough to have some connections with, at the time, our state attorney general was Mike Moore. And Mississippi was just embarking on the development of a program to address tobacco use among teenagers and youth in Mississippi. And so I was hired as a program director for the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi, an organization that is still in place today. And so that was really my foray into the programmatic side of nonprofit work and kind of mission-driven organizations. I transformed a little bit after that, working more towards fundraising and development as a volunteer. I started as a volunteer.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the very first ever Relay for Life event in my hometown was held in 1998 or 1999. I can't really remember for sure. But I got a phone call one day from the man who was the mayor of our community at the time, and he and I had been friends for a very long time. He actually hired me to go to work for him when I was in high school. So I've known this person for a very long time, still continue to be very good friends with this individual. But he basically called me and said, "We're going to have this Relay for Life event, and I need you to be the chairperson."
Oh.
So I guess you could say I was kind of voluntold. Yeah, so I really, that's one of the first time that I really saw philanthropy in action, right? So you have people that come together around a common cause and contribute their time or their talent or their resources in ways that are meaningful to others, to provide services to others.
Sure.
So about 6 months after that happened, someone from within the American Cancer Society called me and said, "We need to hire someone in your area to be a community development representative. Would you be interested in that role?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I said, well, let's talk about that. I had been a part of the organization and saw the impact that it had at the local community level through those events. So we had a conversation. And oddly enough, the hiring manager for that position was actually out on maternity leave at the time. So I interviewed with someone who was not going to be my hiring manager.
Right.
It- Great people, still friends with all of them today. I was hired, so I started my work in really nonprofit fundraising and development with the American Cancer Society
Mm,
20 something years ago, and spent almost 12 years there. So I really kind of like grew up in the American Cancer Society, I guess. But,
that's wonderful.
if you had asked me 25 years ago, what is your career path going to look like? I would have never been able to predict that it would have been the type of journey that I've had since then. So that's kind of how I got started as a volunteer.
That's amazing. I love that because most people that get into development work, there is no clear path as it is, and they find that they have transferable skills, but it typically is from one career to another. And
Mhm.
you got into it as a volunteer. I love that.
I did, and I've had some incredible mentors along the way that, have invested in me as a person, and I've had the opportunity to be a part of some really, really incredible organizations. Since then, I continued to serve in a volunteer role as a board member for an organization here in Mississippi. And so, I found my passion for using my talents and skills in ways of connecting people
Yes.
and building relationships with people and encouraging people to use what they have to help others.
Yeah,
And that's what philanthropy is all about, in my opinion.
absolutely. Yeah, you said it really well. Thank you.
Yeah.
How long have you been affiliated with the Mississippi Nurses Foundation, Amanda?
So I am almost 5 years into my current role.
Okay.
So I've started my fifth year. Let me put it that way. An incredible organization. And so when I made the decision to transition into this role, it has given me an opportunity to be a part of an organization that's doing some great work here in Mississippi, but a little bit refreshing because now I get to see things from a funder's perspective rather than a fundraising perspective.
Oh,
So, we are a grant making organization. And so I'm kind of getting back to my program roots a
oh yeah.
little bit. We do have donors that we work with very closely that support some of the programs that the foundation administers, and we kind of help facilitate that process. So I'm still in the fundraising world,
Yeah.
but really more as a funder. And it's just so rewarding to get to be on that side of the conversation to use the resources that people have chosen to invest into the foundation, and be a part of contributing those out through the programs and services that we provide.
Wonderful. And thank you for that. I think I was going to cover a little bit of that later in the conversation, but let's just keep going there. So if you can just tell our audience about the Mississippi Nurses Foundation's mission,
Sure.
what your main responsibilities are there, please, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of our conversation for our listeners, I don't always sound this way, but we're going to get through it. So the Mississippi Nurses Foundation is an organization that was founded back in the early 1980s.
Hmm.
Work in partnership with the Mississippi Nurses Association, which is a membership-driven organization here in Mississippi that represents nurse professionals in our state. And so
Okay.
from the foundation's perspective, our really mission is to support nursing students and nurse professionals who have already entered the profession. And so we do that through scholarship opportunities, leadership development opportunities that the foundation facilitates, professional development opportunities for nurses who are already in the workforce. We
Hmm.
do have some funding available that we provide to PhD candidates for research that
Oh,
they're working on. So anywhere from someone enters a community college for an associate's degree in nursing, all the way through that PhD level, the foundation has scholarship and resource programs that are available through our generous donors who help us do that to help them complete their educational journey and enter the workforce as a nurse in Mississippi. That is our number one priority, is
Mm.
to encourage all of our students that we support. We want you to complete your degree, pass your board licensure, and become a part of the nursing workforce in Mississippi.
That's wonderful. I I imagine the goal is also to keep those nurses in the state,
It
correct?
is.
Yeah.
It is. And so one of the programs that we offer has a little bit of a requirement to it. It's a stipend that we offer a little bit higher level than our typical scholarship opportunities. And in one of the things that we ask of the people who are selected to participate in that program is that they do make a commitment to stay in Mississippi to work as a nurse,
Yes.
be as a nurse educator in a clinical setting, all kinds of different opportunities, but we're really trying to encourage people who complete their degrees in Mississippi or elsewhere, come to Mississippi, stay in Mississippi. We need you here in Mississippi. And the foundation, is investing in those people so that we know that we have very well educated, compassionate, and caring nurses providing care to our people in Mississippi.
That's awesome. That's a very admirable goal.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of this group.
That's great. And I think it dovetails nicely with a question also earlier in the questionnaire, at least, about your career, Amanda. You've exclusively worked for organizations, as you mentioned, um, starting with the volunteer role in the American Cancer Society. So, employers in the healthcare and the human services sectors. And as I was looking through your LinkedIn bio, I do that for all the guests, just as a heads up. I'm a prospect researcher by trade. Um, I was just struck by that continuity in your career, working in those sectors. And I wondered, has that consistently been a deliberate choice on your part, or are these nonprofit organizations where you've worked more reflective of this was a great opportunity at the right time in my career, just happened to be in those two sectors?
I would say that it's maybe a little bit of both,
Okay.
but more primarily because of my own personal values and beliefs.
Hmm.
I come from a family that is, we're not independently wealthy by any means. However, I come from a family who taught me and my siblings from the time we were children, and we continued to do this for our children and the grandchildren and the family and all across generations, the
Hmm.
importance of helping others.
Yes.
And that is just something that is very important to me personally. And to have had the opportunity to make a career out of that has been just an incredible blessing to me.
Hmm.
But I do think that I've had the opportunity to literally see the expression on a person's face
Hmm.
who has received some type of service or whatever it is as a result of someone else sharing their resources to help them.
Yes.
And that is extremely valuable, and it's something that motivates me as a person to get to be a part of that process.
Yes. That's powerful. And I'm so glad you talked about those personal values and how it aligns with the work you've been able to do. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people stay in the nonprofit world once they get exposed to what career opportunities there are in it. It's like
Right.
it's a great opportunity to give back, whether it's locally, regionally, or beyond there.
Mhm.
So I admire you for those values aligning with the work you do.
Yeah, it's really been, just such a blessing to get to be a part of those conversations and those, and even some of the volunteer work that I do still today. really focusing on children and youth is I would probably say is like my number one. If I had to choose one type of kind of mission,
Mm.
it would be something centered around children and youth who need family support or, a place to call home or just an opportunity to be exposed to better things and better life. Anyway,
Totally.
I'll get off topic with that, but it is something that's one of the things that really motivates me personally.
Mm. I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Um, we have a question here that I thought would be interesting. I don't know much about the state of Mississippi. I visited it when I was doing a college tour. I thought I wanted to move out of the Northeast for college, and so I went my parents and sister all the way from Virginia to Mississippi to Tennessee, and so I've been to Ole Miss, the campus in Oxford,
Okay.
Mississippi, and it was
Good place to
beautiful.
visit.
Yes, yeah. You, as you mentioned earlier in your intro, you're a lifelong Mississippian and
Mhm.
working in the nonprofit space. I'm just very curious, and I imagine others in our audience would be too. How have you seen the nonprofit healthcare in particular ecosystem evolve during your career, whether that's very locally or just whatever you may share statewide or regionally.
Sure.
Also want to be sensitive. Some guests don't want to say exactly where they're located or where they work. So whatever you'd like to share and then be comfortable sharing.
Sure. Well, I hope that you did not visit Mississippi in August or September. It is brutally, brutally humid here during that time of the year, but Oxford is a beautiful place. In fact, my son lives there right now, and it's a wonderful school. Um,
Yes,
so I'm glad that you had the opportunity to see that.
yes.
Really, when I think about the landscape of nonprofit work in Mississippi, Mississippi is a very generous state from a very small pool of people who have significant resources to give. And
Mm,
so, we are a rural state, probably, I'm not sure about current statistics, but at one time, probably the poorest state in the country,
mm.
definitely towards the bottom of the list. And so when you think about that, that means the majority of our population has gaps in resource availability of resources that are needed.
Yeah,
And so, if you really think about what nonprofit organizations do, it's addressing those gaps between what the government can provide
yeah,
and what people really need. And so
yeah.
at that point, individuals have to come together or foundations or corporate, all those different giving pools have to come together to support their communities and the people that live there, that work there, that have been there their entire lives, or even people that, are influx into the area.
Mm,
And so we are a very generous state. There are a lot of incredible organizations that are deeply rooted here in Mississippi. We do have, a pretty significant footprint of all the big ones that you would think about, like your Make-A-Wish and your American Cancer Society and, your other organizations like that, that are pretty rooted here in Mississippi and very involved in our local communities as well. But there's some really incredible nonprofit groups here that are, one or two or three people
wow.
that are managing programs and fundraising and, keeping the lights on and helping people in their own backyards.
Yes.
So it's an interesting landscape. We don't have access to the wealth of a California or New York or, where all these big, huge philanthropists live.
Yeah.
But the people that are here that do have resources, and that could be $5 at a time or $500,000 at a time.
Mm, yeah.
The people in Mississippi are very generous and
Yeah.
we help each other. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting landscape. I have seen it evolve over the 20, 25 years that I've been doing this type of work. And I'm very grateful for some of those larger organizations that have really taken a hard look at states like Mississippi and have invested some resources to help nonprofits in Mississippi. We have a great Our Mississippi Alliance of Nonprofits is an incredible organization that does a lot of capacity building for some of the smaller organizations that,
Okay.
don't know how to manage a website or don't have a CRM platform that they can use to track their donor base or their gifts that they get. And so we've been fortunate to have some of those larger organizations to really take a look at what we're doing here and say, they need a little bit help to be even better than what they're doing
Yeah.
right now. So I've seen things kind of progress that way. And I think back on my own journey through working with nonprofits in Mississippi, you know, 25 years ago, it would have been an incredible resource for somebody to come to me and say, okay, we're going to put you through a fundraising course so that you know how to do this in the best way, in the most efficient way. And we're going to partner you with some mentors who are experts in the field and have all this experience that can walk alongside you, not just Amanda, but your organization,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that your organization can grow and be even better to serve more people in the communities where you are.
Yeah. That's
So,
that's a very fascinating overview, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I know some statistics about various states. I had a guest last week from Arkansas who also talked about just how it's a very rural
mhm.
state, but it sounds a lot like Mississippians, where they
Sure.
are eager to bridge those gaps through the means that they're able to provide.
Sure,
Um,
yeah. So Mississippi and Arkansas, anything kind of that Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, was that kind of quad state area. Lots and lots of similarities. I had the
mm,
opportunity to do some work in Mississippi and Arkansas when I was with the American Cancer Society, and it's like, I just left Mississippi and went. It's very similar, very similar.
I see.
Um, but still in those rural settings, again, people are so generous with what they do have
Yeah.
that it's just incredible to see that be amplified by the number of people that come together around a cause to make their communities better.
Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
So yeah, and you mentioned, Amanda, just the importance it could have given you in your career earlier about the mentorship and resources, which I think is a really nice segue to the last question here, which is it's not in the questionnaire, but we talked about it by email.
Sure,
You are involved with and have taken courses through the Lilly School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. So, with a few minutes here, I'd love to hear if we want to first start with the resources that have helped you kind of bridge that gap that wasn't available at the beginning of your nonprofit journey. And then if you want to talk about the co-teaching you recently did, please.
sure. Absolutely. And I'll kind of circle back to something that I said earlier about larger organizations looking at states like Mississippi and choosing to invest in them. And so the way I got connected with the Lilly School of Philanthropy was through some funding that was made available through Fidelity Charitable
Mm,
to offset the cost of nonprofit professionals in Mississippi to attend a training course through Lilly. And so, again, this is a national organization looking at a state like Mississippi and saying, okay, we're not just going to throw them some funding and say, go do your work. We
yeah.
want to invest in the work that they are doing, and that means investing in the people that are doing the work.
Yes. Wow.
So that's how I got connected probably 4 years ago with the Lilly School. And since then, I've completed their certified fundraising manager certification. So it's a full
Congratulations.
course. Thank you so much. It helped me to prepare for the CFRE exam, which I
Mm,
completed about 2 years ago. I had gone through the process and met all the requirements to sit for the exam, but then I thought, I don't know what kind of questions they're going to ask me, on this. I mean, I can talk about it all day, but
yeah.
some of the courses that I went through with the Lilly School really helped me to really get deeper into
Mm,
the processes behind fundraising and the ethics behind fundraising and just really diving deeper into that kind of information. So highly recommend the Lilly Fundraising School. I can't say enough about their faculty, their content, their curriculum, the team that they have doing that programming. And so last year, I was finishing up a course and had a conversation with my instructor, the faculty member who was teaching that particular course. And he said, they were like, well, we're always looking to add more faculty. I said, well, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
So we had some conversations and I shared information about my background and my knowledge and working, in the nonprofit landscape, particularly in the Southeast.
Mm.
And so last week I had my opportunity to do my first co-teaching experience
Awesome.
with the Lilly School, and it went great. We'll see where that leads down the road
Right.
for me. But, again, I just can't tell you enough about the resources that are available now. And that school has been around for, almost 30 years.
Mm.
But being in a place like Mississippi, you don't always hear about those resources like that.
Sure.
But, again, just tying it back to a national organization decided to make an investment, and it was within a specific geographic area, and Mississippi
Mm.
was included in that because they realized that there's some really talented people and some great organizations that needed just a little bit more support,
Yes.
even better. So
Well,
I hope I'm able to use that experience as an opportunity for some of my peers and
yeah.
colleagues in Mississippi, and encourage them to maybe expand their knowledge a little bit
Yeah.
through some learning and professional development. And I've spoken to a few groups about the certified fundraising executive opportunity through CFRE International, and to, just to have that kind of credential behind your name, excuse me, just kind of helps to reinforce that you do know what you're doing
Yes. Absolutely.
and can do it well.
Yeah.
So I think right now there are only 17 of us in Mississippi who hold that credential.
Whoa. Well, bravo
Mhm.
to you. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you. And again, I mean, I'm sure that there are many, many more who are more qualified than I am and could do it.
Hmm.
Um, but right now it's a very small group. And so we're trying to grow that through some mentorship opportunities here in Mississippi, and just really encouraging people to take that next step and be a part of something bigger than, what's right here in your own backyard.
Yes. Yeah. And I like that you mentioned how the Lilly School was not on your radar earlier, because I felt the same way too. I spent the first 18 years of my career in Massachusetts, where I was born, and then moved to Utah about 8 years ago. And it wasn't until I got out here that I first heard about the Lilly School. And you're the first, you told me just now it's been around for about 30 years. That's also new to me. So I think it reflects how vast the nonprofit ecosystem is, and also the importance of just the word of mouth sharing of resources and the mentorship, the dedicated conversations and allyship that really helps lift all of us up in this field.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some of these, smaller organizations in our state don't always have funding available to support that type of learning for their team members. And so, when you can find that type of partnership with an organization like a Fidelity Charitable, or whoever else it might be, that sees the value in, I'm probably going to get this wrong about the old adage of, you want to give a man a fish, teach him to fish instead of just
Yes.
giving him a fish. You know what I'm trying to say there.
Yes.
And so, really, okay, well, we have funding, but we want you to learn something from it.
Yeah.
We don't want to just try to solve today's problem. We
Correct.
want to set you up so that you can be better for your organization down the road. So,
Yes. That's
mhm,
well said. Thank you.
yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for this conversation today. We're at the half hour mark, and you have generously covered your career, the resources you're taking advantage of, and also your passion for helping specifically children and family causes as a volunteer and with your role in the Nurses Foundation in Mississippi. So I am just very grateful to have had you on as a guest. I appreciate your preparation. You had a busy week last week with the Lilly School. But again, lots of great content here that I really know our audience will benefit from hearing, especially as you talked about the Lilly School programs, the CFRE as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just very excited to share your conversation with our audience.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. And for all of your listeners out there, if you're ever in Mississippi, look me up. I'll be glad to show you around a little bit, maybe treat you some fried catfish or one of our specialties here in Mississippi. But it truly is a beautiful state with a lot of potential and some people that are just very passionate about taking care of each other.
Yes.
And so we rally around causes and we rally around people, and we may not be, have all the billionaires in the room, but we get the job done. So if you're ever
Yeah.
in Mississippi, give me a shout.
Awesome. That sounds like a great invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you for that. And on that note about people, thanks to Amanda for your time today. And thank you to everyone over the last 4 years who has tuned in, whether you listen to the podcast, you watch the recordings. Thank you for checking out People in Fundraising, and especially where these interviews air for people that like and comment and repost them. It all means a lot to me. And with Amanda's conversation today, we now have greened the entire map of the United States. So I'm very grateful for that. And for our audience, just in a concluding note here, you'll be able to find Amanda Crawford's conversation on Monday, April 20th, airing on YouTube, and then Podbean for people that like to listen to podcasts. And then thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE, WIZE, and the Donor Participation Project. He is sponsoring my website, which is peopleinfundraising.wordifysites.com. So thank you all for checking out these conversations and supporting it. And Amanda, I really am excited to share your conversation on Monday.
Thank you so much, Tim. I look forward to hearing my Southern drawl.
It's awesome. Thank you. Have a great
Thank
rest of your
you.
day.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.